Hi, and welcome to the Worship Cafe. It's like to say a big good morning. Thank you for sharing the podcast. Thank you for staying, listening. We can't be a podcast without you. And this is a very simple platform where I share my DIY thoughts for young, budding worship musicians, home studio experts, self-taught musicians, name it. Anyone who's got anything motivational that they're involved with, anything creative that they're involved with, I think this can be useful for you. I'm by no means an expert, but I'll just go on ranting about stuff that I discover, stuff that comes to me. Anyway, last time we talked about the grind, how real it was. And today we're going to be talking about something slightly related. And I just want to tag it as grow in the dark. Grow in the dark. What do I mean by this expression, grow in the dark? Well, has anyone ever thought about it? You've been a musician for a while. You've never been nominated for anything, never won an award, never won an accolade, never had people celebrate you in that big way. I mean, we all close our eyes and dream of one day we'll win a Grammy or we'll do something. Our music will be used for some big endeavor. It'll be in a movie. We'll be made. But it does not happen to the most of us by experience. How can you continue doing what you do and what you love without getting the notice, or should I say without getting the recognition that you think you deserve? Well, here's my take on it. Imagine you have all of life. You were born, and from the day you were born, you had access to everything. I mean, everything that you ever wanted was there. Surely that's sort of the kind of life you'd want to have, isn't it? Like you've got access to everything and you never want for anything. But as I get older, I think I'm beginning to find out now that it's perhaps not going to be as interesting as I thought it would be. For instance, life would be one big boring continuum because I've never had to aspire to anything. I think for the most part, this is personally what I've experienced, is having something to aspire to gives me a reason to want to be alive. It gives me a reason to want to hope for something. It makes life exciting. The ups and the downs and the quiet periods and the nothing periods and the dark periods, like growing in the dark, yeah? So what is it about this period of darkness or seemingly a time when you're unknown that makes life interesting? I think for the most part, if I was to tell you a story about a character, a fictional character I named, and I said from the moment I introduced him, he was already that hero. He had no past, nothing. You would think about this character and think he's probably not worth listening to, not worth investing your time. But what if I said he was born into that same family and all of a sudden he had a tragedy and all of a sudden he was homeless and all of a sudden this has happened and that had happened and this happened and he was almost there and then he fell down and then he picked himself up and finally he made it to be that hero. All of a sudden that character comes to life. It's the stuff of Hollywood movies. Everybody wants to do a movie about some character that's had ups and downs in their life because guess what? Everybody on the planet can relate to that. Everybody except obviously those who were born into a family where they've never had to work or anything. But everybody on the planet can relate to it. It's like the famous rags to riches, but it's just got your name on it. So you're living that life that you pay so much money to go and see a blockbuster movie made about. You are living that life. So what do you do when you are growing in the dark? I think when you're going through a dark period, you should focus a lot more on doing the things that make you grow. Just remember this. I read this in a book that I'm reading currently. It's called Listening to Trees. Yeah, it's written by a very, very good author. And he mentioned a scenario where the trees in the forest, the bigger trees have wider spans. And by the nature of their wide spans, they cut off the sunlight to the forest floor. So the younger trees coming up don't have as much access to that sunlight, to sunlight. Maybe about 4% of all of the sunlight is shaded off by the canopies. That's all that reaches the ground. So they find themselves in this precarious condition where they've got to grow in the dark. Now, because of that, their growth is stunted. So they don't grow as tall and they don't grow as quick as the bigger trees that have got access to all of the sunlight. If you know about photosynthesis, trees use the green pigment to make food. So no access to sunlight, no access to food. Now this should be a precarious situation, as I said earlier, but it also does something for the young tree. It forces this young tree to dig its roots down deep into the forest soil and to begin to search for networks there, that strengthen its existence. So it begins to grow deeper roots. And this is good in the long term for that tree, because when the bigger tree, the older tree, eventually dies and creates space in the canopy, this young tree now has access to the sunlight, but not just that, it's got access to a root network that grows even deeper than it could have had if it had gotten access to sunlight earlier. It would have had all that, its time in the sunlight, all that upward growth, but not a lot of growth below ground to sustain it. So what am I saying about this? You're going through a period where all your mates and, colleagues and co-laborers are getting all of that shine. It's fine, rejoice with them, okay? Because it's going to be your turn soon. But whilst you're waiting, I think it'll be good for you to just develop roots, grow, to do the boring, repetitive stuff, like going to look for the networks, going to grow your circle, going to that event, meeting people and keeping them in your circle. Because guess what? Without knowing it, you're actually building the capacity to go the long haul. And surely, truly but surely, at some point, we all get our moment in the spotlight. And when we do, it will be an extra shine, coming upon us, and the roots already dug. So I'm saying grow in the dark. It doesn't look like you're making much progress. Somebody else is getting all the recognition. They're getting all the nominations and they're winning. And that's great. Some people never get nominated for anything. Right? Some people get nominated every time and never win. Think about that. So don't live for the nominations. One last analogy and I'll drop this. I don't want this to be a rant, but so that was my alarm. It's supposed to be 7 minutes long, not longer. But anyway, so think of yourself as this guy who is playing in a football team, okay? And you're part of the team. The team's success is your success, but you're playing in defense or somewhere in midfield, okay? The strikers always get the mention. You do all that hard work, you pass it to your guys in the final third, and they score. All the strikers get the mention. They make the headlines, they score goals, you win games, all right? So it looks like they're getting all the mention and you don't get mentioned except whenever you make a mistake or we just don't exist. But the truth is you have to still play as passionately as you can to make sure that your team wins, because you can score all those goals, but if you make a lot more mistakes in defense, you're still going to lose. So think about it. Growing in the dark is just saying, I'm staying constant, I'm staying focused, I'll do what I can, and I'll support those up front who are getting all that mention just now, because a day is coming when even the goalkeeper will get a mention. A day is coming when the defender will get a mention. A day is coming when we all will get celebrated for what we do unnoticed. So please, that's been my rant today. I've been your host, Olan, and I'm really thankful. We got over 50 views, over 50 on the last podcast. That was a good landmark. And please keep giving us feedback. Please listen, like, share. Tell us how we're doing. I'd like to know from you if this helps you. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and I'll speak to you soon.